Okay, so what I want to do is I want to create a topographic or topography. I want to create something like a terrain model. What I'm going to do is switch to the site, and what I'm going to do is pick the roof, and temporarily I'm going to turn it off. So I'm going to say hide that particular element. This is just so that I can see the walls as they run around the building there. Now there's lots of different ways of doing this, but one of the things that I like to do is I'm just going to draw some regular, what are called model lines. Excuse me. These are there just to kind of help me define what the outside of my site looks like. So I'm just drawing literally I'm just drawing a rectangle to indicate kind of an area of the site, and then I'm going to use that as kind of a template to create my topography on top of it. So to do the topography, I'm going to click on the Massing and Site tab, and I'm going to create topographic surface. And then there's different ways of doing it, but the one way that's probably most common is placing points. So if I were to say something like my ground level at the back of my site is maybe as high as let's say 8 feet. If I did that, click on there and click on there, it now knows those 2 points in the topography are at 8 feet. If I said that it drops to 7 feet, I'm going to put in a point there, and I'm just eyeballing this, putting in another 7 feet there. By the time I get down to my building at the ground was 2 feet above zero. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that to 2 feet. There and there, and you can see what I'm seeing is the 1 foot contours. At the front of my building, I'm going to drop it a little bit. Suppose I'm going to expose some of the footing so you can see it, but I'm going to pick on 1 foot here and here. I'm assuming there's kind of a general slope to the south, and then let's maybe drop it quite a bit where I say it's maybe minus 8 feet at the front there. So that's actually my terrain model. Again, I need to say finish the surface, and I can look at it here and see the terrain. Like I'd mentioned before, these were kind of there temporarily, so if I hover over it, hit the tab key and then hit the delete key. Oops, sorry, I forgot to hover over it, hit the tab key and then click to select it, and then hit the delete key to get rid of them. So there's my house in its terrain. Now you might be interested in that the materials that in general can come from the object styles table. The way you see this is if you go to manage and you go to object styles, you see that in here there are some default materials that are placed on different architectural objects, and if I go down to say topography, I can see that it has a material called site earth, and I want to change that, and I'm going to say looking in the materials available to me, maybe I want that to be grass. So what it's doing is change that in my model. I'll show a little bit more on topography in that if I go up here and I were to say let's see, I'm not going to edit the surface, let me just go back to here where I can say I want to not, the topography at the moment runs all the way through the building, right? So if I looked at a sectional view of my building, this one, this is not exactly what I want in my building. I don't want that topography to run through the building section itself. So what I do to correct it is I create what's called as a building pad, the building pad, typically what I would do here is make that building pad, it's on the site level. I'm just going to draw that kind of outline for the building pad, and then what I'm going to do is constrain it to the grid lines there for the outside of the building, so it's actually running through, it's within the wall if you like, and lock that. And if I look at the sections now, I just want to confirm that that section, so whatever height I had given it here is how far down it's cutting the topography. So I've got my floor joists above the ground. One other thing I might want to do is I might want to say join the floor to this, if that is in fact how I want it to look. Oops, sorry, lost my command there for a second. I was under join the wall to that. If that's the change I want to make in my cross section. Let me just drag this up a bit, make it a bit clearer what I'm looking at. Let's say for this I want to say cut from that. Oh, that's no, I'll leave that as it is at the moment. You can see that I've got a little bit of editing in here to do. I can like pick the grid and make it a little. Oh, that was the one that's locked, which is why I couldn't move it. I can do it from this one. That was the one that was pinned, which is why I couldn't do it. So there's my house, and I've got the terrain around it. I'm going to try and stay on topic and go back to the 3D terrain here. And the other thing I wanted to show you was if I'm looking at, say, the site view here of the terrain, I can split or merge surfaces or create subregions. So an example of a subregion, I'm going to save this. An example of a subregion is that I do something like create geometry. Let's say I take that, I'll just drop it onto the site like this, and then say OK. What you'll see is that is one region and this is another region, which means that now if I wanted I could pick, it's any closed shape, I can pick that subregion. Right, this here, and I could go up, and instead of using the same material that I was using before, I'm actually going to say what if that was Earth, so that now in 3D it's got this Earth patch for some kind of planting. I won't do, I could do more on topography, but I think I'll leave it at that. And we'll move on to another topic. Okay, let's finish this off with a roof. And so what I'm going to do is actually I'm thinking that just to show you how this would work, I had put in a level here, thinking that I'm just going to have the walls extend around the roof. I'm now thinking that I might want to take that, and if I go to view, plan view, floor plan, I'm actually thinking that I might want to have a floor plan, and I'm going to rename this to roof. Right, so I didn't lose any of the connections of anything that I had there. I just thought it might be convenient to have a roof plan to work in here for drawing the outline of my roof. So the way I do it is I go back to the Home tab, which is where most of my building components are. Under Roof, I'm going to use the option that is Roof by Footprint. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a shape around my house. I'm going to keep this pretty simple, so I'm just drawing this around the outside of my house. If you look at the sketch, the triangle indicates that there's a slope coming from that line. That line, if you like, would be a wall plate or something like that, and then the rafters are coming back towards the ridge line, and that indicates that there's a slope. So just so that this is a little clearer, you see that when I pick this, it says that it defines a slope, and that's why it's got this triangle, and then that's the actual slope that it has. So if I look at this in 3D, I've got a sketch that I drew, and if I say finish it, what it does is it projects back to the ridge line at the top there. Right? But at any point that I want, I can pick my roof. Let's make it a little more steel truss insulation on a metal deck. Let's try something like that. These are the styles that I can, or the family types that I can create and edit. Oh, I don't like that. Let's just go back to where I was, just so you can see the technique. If I say edit the footprint, so what I could be doing is I could be saying, say there at that line at the back, there is no slope. That would give me something that looks like that, right? If I said edit the footprint, and I said there is no slope on this end or on that end, then what I've got is something that looks like that. And if I edit the footprint and I say, you know, I actually want that to be much shallower, let's say like 3 and 12, then I've got something that looks a bit more like that. So just editing the properties that are in the roof sketch lets me work with this. Now this might look a little weird, because now I've got a disconnect between my roof and my walls. So one of the things I could do is I can tab on my walls, click, and then say attach them to the top, which is attach the top or the base. That's the top that I'm attaching, like that, so that now the walls are connected. The other thing that I could do is going back to my roof plan here and going inside the sketch, or inside the footprint that's making this up. I could actually put in dimensions to control this, so that if the building size changes, so does the roof. So if you remember the technique that you saw from the mezzanine floor, I could do something like this, where I say from there to there is going to be, and let me give this a bigger overhang on the south side, then I'm going to lock that, then I'm going to put on the side or the back. So the technique would be a dimension, and I need to locate the sides. So let's say I wanted 3 feet at the sides. I can now specify 3 feet, and then I can pick that and lock it. And here 3 feet, pick the dimension and lock it. And on the back, where I don't have much overhang at all, I'm going to, let's say I set that to maybe just 1 foot. And pick the dimension and lock it. Okay, so now my building looks like this. Yeah, I can create some not very attractive looking buildings. But you get the principle behind how this is working out. So next movie will be some topography.